Hello students, from my previous video you must be knowing that I have recently launched a problem book known as Golden Problem in Mathematics. This particular book I have designed for those students who are preparing for exams like JEE Main, JEE Advanced and KVPY. It contains 500 unique and challenging problems on various topics of class 11th and 12th. Now in this particular video I am going to give you the detailed solutions of 10 questions from my book. I will be making 3 videos, each containing 10 questions from my book. So here is the first one. You have to find the value of tan 1 degree minus tan 89 degree upon tan 1 degree plus tan 89 degree whole square plus tan 2 degree minus tan 88 degree upon tan 2 degree plus tan 88 degree whole square and so on till tan 44 degree minus tan 46 degree divided upon tan 44 plus tan 46 degree whole square. Now how to proceed with this problem? It's a problem involving the use of trigonometric identities as well as little bit of tricks. Now first of all what we have to do is the first expression we will be writing as tan 1 degree minus cot 1 degree. Why? Because this tan 89 degree is nothing but cot 1 degree by the property tan theta is equal to cot 90 degree minus theta, right? Upon similarly it will become tan 1 degree plus cot 1 degree whole square. Fine. Now first of all I am simplifying the first term only. This cot 1 degree can further be written as 1 upon tan 1 degree. So that means this is tan 1 degree minus 1 upon tan 1 degree upon whole upon tan 1 degree plus 1 upon tan 1 degree whole square, right? Further this will become tan square 1 minus 1 upon tan square 1 plus 1 when we take the LCM. Now this can further be written as what? You must be aware of the identity 1 minus tan square theta upon 1 plus tan square theta is how much? It is cos 2 theta. And here we are having tan square theta minus 1, but it is whole square. So this can be written as 1 minus tan square 1 upon 1 plus tan square 1 whole square, right? So this is cos 2 theta. Here theta is 1 degree. So that means this is cos square 2 degree. Fine. Now in the same manner, I can rewrite the expression as cos square 2 degree plus cos square 4 degree plus cos square 6 degree and so on till cos square 88 degree, right? Let us assume this expression is equal to S and we need to find the value of this S now. Now this S is cos square 2 degree plus cos square 4 degree plus cos square 6 degree till cos square 88 degree. Fine. Now what we need to do now is break this group into two parts. One will be cos square 2 degree plus cos square 4 degree and so on till cos square 44 degree. And next part will contain cos square 46 degree plus cos square 48 degree and so on till cos square 88 degree, right? Now if you look carefully, you know that cos 88 can be written as sin 2 degree. Why? Because cos theta is equal to sin 90 degree minus theta. So according to this S can be written as cos square 2 degree plus cos square 4 degree plus cos square 6 degree and so on till cos square 44 degree. And the second group, when we transform by using this identity, will now become sin square 44 degree plus sin square 42 degree and so on till sin square 2 degree, right? Before sin square 2 degree will be having terms like sin square 4 degree, sin square 6 degree and so on. Now what we have to do? We are all aware about the identity cos square theta plus sin square theta is equal to 1. So that means if I take cos square 2 degree plus sin square 2 degree, it will be 1. Cos square 4 degree plus sin square 4 degree, again it will be 1. Similarly, cos square 6 degree plus sin square 6 degree, again it will be 1. So that means 1, 1, 1 we have to add. But how many number of times 1 is going to come? So that will be determined by the total number of terms in a particular group. Why? Because both of these groups contain the same number of terms. Now let us count the number of terms in the first group. 2, 4, 6 and so on up to 44. It's the table of 2 till 44. So that means there are 22 terms. Similarly, 22 terms are also present in this second group. So that means we have to add 22 number of times. So finally I can declare the value of S as 22. Right? It was a nice problem involving the use of trigonometric identities. Now we move to our next question. Now students, this is another nice problem that I am going to take today. It is given that S equal to sin square 1 degree plus 2 sin square 2 degree plus 3 sin square 3 degree and so on till 179 into sin square 179 degree, and you are required to find the value of root S. Now first of all, we will be writing this expression S as sin square 1 degree plus 2 sin square 2 degree plus 3 sin square 3 degree till 179 into sin square 179 degree, right? Now what we have to do, we'll be just reversing the entire expression and we'll be writing S as 179 into sin square 179 degree plus 178 into sin square 178 degree plus 177 into sin square 177 degree and so on till sin square 1 degree. Right? Now let us call the first equation as 1 and second as 2. Now you must be knowing that sin 180 degree minus theta is nothing but sin theta. So by this identity we can say that sin 179 degree will be nothing but sin 1 degree. Similarly, sin 178 degree will be sin 2 degree, right? So if I just add these two equations, adding equation 1 and 2, what do we get? It will be 2s on the left hand side equal to. Now since sin 179 degree and sin 1 degree, both of them are same, so I can write straight away 180 into sin square 1 degree. Next will be 180 into sin square 2 degree. Are you getting my point? And so on till 180 into sin square 179 degree. All the angles are in increasing order. Now 2s can be written as 180 common, and in the bracket will be having sin square 1 degree plus sin square 2 degree plus sin square 3 degree and so on till sin square 179 degree, right? Now this is the most important step of the question, how to get the value of this expression. Now S can be written as 90 into, I will be just breaking this entire expression into three parts. The first part will contain sin square 1 degree plus sin square 2 degree and so on till sin square 89 degree. The second part will just contain one term, and that is sin square 90 degree, and we already know its value, it is just 1. Then we'll be having the terms like sin square 91 degree plus sin square 92 degree and so on till sin square 179 degree, right? Now S will become 90 into. Now just look carefully. The first part I am writing as it is, sine square 1 degree plus sine square 2 degree and so on till sine square 89 degree. The second one will have the value as 1. Now what to do with the third part? Now you must be aware of the identity sine 90 degree plus theta is how much? It is cos theta. So that means sine 91 degree will be how much? It is just cos 1. Yes. So that means it can be written as cos square 1 degree plus cos square 2 degree plus cos square 3 degree and so on till cos square 89 degree. Fine. Now this step is very much obvious, that is sine square 1 degree plus cos square 1 degree will form 1. Why 1? Because sine square theta plus cos square theta we know is equal to 1. Similarly, sine square 2 degree plus cos square 2 degree, that is also 1. So how many times 1 is going to come when we add these terms? 1 is going to come 89 number of times. And 1 was also present for sine square 90 degree. So that means in total we have S as 90 into 90, which is 8100. So finally I can say the value of root S is just 9. Now students, this is the third question that I am taking from my book. It is based on the topic of quadratic equations. There are 3 quadratic equations involved in this question. First one is x square minus px plus 1 equal to 0. Second one is x square minus qx plus 2 is equal to 0. And third one is x square minus rx plus 3 is equal to 0. It says each pair of these 3 equations have a common root. Now let us take the roots of the first equation as alpha and beta. And since first 2 equations will have a common root, so let me take the common root as beta and the other root of the second equation as gamma, right? Now to satisfy the given condition of the question, the roots of the third equation must be alpha and gamma. Otherwise, the condition will not prevail. Now, from the basic concept of sum of roots and product of roots, I can write alpha plus beta as P and alpha beta as 1. Similarly, beta plus gamma as Q and beta gamma as 2. And lastly, gamma plus alpha as R and gamma alpha as 3. Right? Now we need to find the value of P square plus Q square plus R square minus 2 times PQ plus QR plus RP. Now to make the question little simpler, what I am doing, I am adding P square plus Q square plus R square and also subtracting it from the given expression. So now it will become 2 times P square plus Q square plus R square minus PQ minus QR minus RP and lastly minus P square plus Q square plus R square inside the bracket, right? Now the expression becomes 2 times P square plus Q square plus R square minus PQ minus QR minus RP, and then we had minus inside the bracket P square plus Q square plus R square. Now the first expression, the first term will be P minus Q whole square. Why? Because we are having the terms P square plus Q square minus 2PQ. So we can form it like P minus Q whole square plus Q minus R whole square plus R minus P whole square, right? And the second term as it is, minus P square plus Q square plus R square. Now what you should do, you should put the values of P, Q and R obtained. What were they? They were P as alpha plus beta, Q as beta plus gamma and R as gamma plus alpha. So now what do we get from here? If I put P as alpha plus beta and this as beta plus gamma. Similarly, beta plus gamma minus gamma minus alpha, gamma plus alpha minus beta whole square, and then inside the bracket I am having minus alpha plus beta whole square plus beta plus gamma whole square plus gamma plus alpha whole square. Right? Now we are left with what? We are just left with alpha minus gamma whole square plus beta minus alpha whole square or alpha minus beta whole square and beta minus gamma whole square. Right? And let us open the bracket. This is now alpha plus minus alpha plus beta whole square minus beta plus gamma whole square minus gamma plus alpha whole square. Now you must be aware of the identity alpha plus beta whole square minus alpha minus beta whole square is nothing but 4 alpha beta. How can you get this? Just use the identity a plus b whole square and a minus b whole square. Finally, you will be getting 4ab. So I'm going to use the same thing over here. First of all, let me take out minus common. I will be getting alpha plus beta whole square minus alpha minus beta whole square. So that will form 4 alpha beta. Right? I am taking these two terms. Similarly, I will be taking beta plus gamma whole square and beta minus gamma whole square. That means these two terms I am going to take. And lastly, I will be taking gamma plus alpha whole square and gamma minus alpha whole square. That will give me plus 4 gamma alpha. Right? Now finally I can take out minus 4 common, and inside the bracket it is alpha beta plus beta gamma plus gamma alpha. Just look at the values which we found earlier. Alpha beta was 1, beta gamma was 2, gamma alpha was 3. So our final answer becomes minus 24. Now it was a nice question on quadratic equations. Now let us move to the next question. Now this problem is again of quadratic equation, and it is based upon the concept that every root satisfies its corresponding equation. It's written, if alpha and beta are the roots of the quadratic equation 2x square plus 3x plus 5 equal to 0, then we have to find the value of this expression. If you look at both the terms, both of them are quite symmetrical in nature, because it's alpha power 6 upon 63 alpha minus 445, and another is beta power 6 upon 63 beta minus 445. Now in such questions, what should we do? First of all, I know that alpha is a root of 2x square plus 3x plus 5 equal to 0. So that means 2 alpha square plus 3 alpha plus 5 will be equal to 0. Or in other words, I can say alpha square is going to be minus 3 alpha minus 5 whole divided by 2. And the same thing will be valid for beta square as well. So that means whatever I am going to do to create the first expression, the same thing you have to do to create the second expression. So I have got the value of alpha square as minus 3 alpha minus 5 divided by 2. Now what should be the next step? I will be multiplying this alpha square with the alpha on both sides to create alpha cube. Now this is minus 3 alpha square minus 5 alpha whole divided by 2. Right? This can further be written as minus 3. Now what is alpha square? Alpha square was minus 3 alpha minus 5 divided by 2. Further minus 5 alpha whole divided by 2. Right? So if I just simplify it, I'll be getting 9 alpha plus 15 minus 10 alpha whole divided by 4. Right? Or in other words, this is nothing but 15 minus alpha divided by 4. So this is what? This is alpha cube. Now we move further. Now alpha cube is 15 minus alpha divided upon 4. And in the question, I require the value of alpha power 6. So what I do, I square both sides. So now this is alpha power 6 equal to 15 minus alpha whole square divided upon 16. This further becomes 225 plus alpha square minus 30 alpha divided by 16. Right? Now alpha power 6 can further be written as 225 minus 30 alpha. What was the value of alpha square which we found earlier? That was minus 3 alpha minus 5 divided by 2. Right? I am taking minus common and rewriting this as minus inside the bracket 3 alpha plus 5 divided by 2 whole upon 60. Now finally I will be getting alpha power 6 as 450 minus 60 alpha minus 3 alpha minus 5 divided upon 32. Finally, this becomes 445 minus 63 alpha divided by 32. Right? And I hope now the next step should be obvious to you, and that is alpha power 6 divided upon 63 alpha minus 445 will be how much? It will be just minus 1 upon 32, because we have taken minus common, because in the numerator it was 445 minus 63 alpha and we have converted it into 63 alpha minus 445. So that's why it is minus 1 upon 32. Now I told you earlier that whatever I'm doing to create this expression for alpha, the same thing, same treatment you have to do with beta. So that means beta power 6 upon 63 beta minus 445 will also be minus 1 upon 32. So if I just add these two expressions 1 and 2, then the value of alpha power 6 upon 63 alpha minus 445 plus beta power 6 upon 63 beta minus 445 is nothing but minus 1 upon 16. Now this is our next problem. The problem seems to be related to the concept of algebra or functions, but actually I am going to solve it by using the concept of coordinate geometry and trigonometry. Now if you are aware about the basic concepts of circle, then you can clearly see here p square plus q square minus 8p minus 6q plus 9 actually represents the equation of a circle whose general point is going to be p comma q, right? So if I write the parametric representation for this circle, then I can take p as what? H plus r cos theta and q as k plus r sin theta, right? I am assuming that you are aware about the basic concepts of circle. Now what are h and k? H and k form the center of this circle, which is nothing but 4 comma 3. And what is r? R is the radius. So radius comes out to be 16 plus 9 minus 9, which is nothing but 4. Right? So that means I can rewrite p as 4 plus 4 cos theta and q as 3 plus 4 sin theta. Fine. Now we have to find the range of this expression z equal to 4p plus 3q. So that means z is equal to 4p. P we substitute as 4 plus 4 cos theta plus 3q. Q we substitute as 3 plus 4 sin theta. Right? Now this is z equal to 16 plus 16 cos theta plus 9 plus 12 sin theta. Fine. So finally z becomes 25 plus 16 cos theta plus 12 sin theta. Fine. Now the value of z is 25 plus 16 cos theta plus 12 sin theta. Now, if you are aware about the basic concept of trigonometry, then you must be knowing that all the expressions of the format a cos theta plus b sin theta, where a and b are real numbers, has the range minus under root a square plus b square to under root a square plus b square. This is a direct formula which you can use in solving MCQs. So that means the range of 16 cos theta plus 12 sin theta comes out to be minus under root of 16 square plus 12 square, right, to under root 16 square plus 12 square. So finally 16 square is 256, 12 square is 144. When we add them we get 400. So the range comes out to be minus 20 to 20. So now we can say that 16 cos theta plus 12 sin theta lies between minus 20 to 20. Fine. So if I just add 25 to this inequality, then I'm going to get 25 plus 16 cos theta plus 12 sin theta lies between 25 minus 20, which is 5, to 25 plus 20, that is 45. So that means the range of z comes out to be 5 to 45, right? So this was a tricky problem. Now we move to next question. Now students, this is the problem based on the concept of determinants. As you are seeing, we have to add 10 determinants. Now it's almost impossible to find the value of each one of them separately. Now if we look at them carefully, we are observing a particular pattern. And what is that pattern? The first determinant contains 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square, 6 square, 7 square, 8 square, 9 square as its elements. Now similarly, the second one starts from 11 square and goes till 19 square. And the last one starts from 91 square and goes till 99 square. So that means I can generalize the pattern of these determinants. Now how to generalize it? I am taking a random determinant delta r and starting it with r square, r plus 1 whole square, r plus 2 whole square. In the second row it is r plus 3 whole square because we have to keep on adding 1 every time, r plus 4 whole square, r plus 5 whole square, r plus 6 whole square, r plus 7 whole square, and then r plus 8 whole square, right? Now this is the general form of the above determinants. Why I am saying general form? Because if you put r as 1, you'll be getting the first determinant. If you put r as 11, you'll be getting the second determinant. If you put r as 21, you'll be getting the third determinant, and so on. Now let us solve this. The first column is r square, r plus 3 whole square, r plus 6 whole square. Now what I am doing, I am using the properties of determinants and applying the property C3 tends to C3 minus C1 as well as C2 tends to C2 minus C1, right? Now what will happen when we apply this property? Here we will be getting 2r plus 1 because r plus 1 whole square minus r square is 2r plus 1. Similarly, here we will be getting 4r plus 4, right? R plus 4 whole square minus r plus 3 whole square. When we subtract r plus 3 whole square from r plus 4 whole square, it becomes r square plus 8r plus 16 minus r square minus 6r minus 9, right? So it becomes 2r plus 7. You can do the calculations. Next one is r plus 7 whole square minus r plus 6 whole square. So if we subtract, we will be getting 14r minus 12r. So that means it is 2r, and 49 minus 36. So that is going to be 30, right? Similarly, in the element which is lying in the second row and third column, that is r plus 5 whole square minus r plus 3 whole square, we'll be getting 10r minus 6r, that means 4r, and 25 minus 9, which is 16, right? Next is r plus 8 whole square minus r plus 6 whole square. So it is going to become 16r minus 12r, which is 4r, and then 64 minus 36. So that is going to become 28. Fine. Now the value of delta r we have as determinant r square, then 2r plus 1, then 4r plus 4. In the second row we have r plus 3 whole square, then 2r plus 7, then 4r plus 16. Third row we have r plus 6 whole square, then 2r plus 13, and then 4r plus 28, right? Now it's very much clear. If you notice these values, this is 2r, 4r, 2r, 4r, 2r, 4r. So what type of operation should be performed after looking at this? It's very much clear. We should do C3 tends to C3 minus 2C2. Why? Because when we double the items of the second column and subtract it from the items of the third column, r will go away. Now delta r becomes r square. This is 2r plus 1, and here we get only 2. This is r plus 3 whole square. This is 2r plus 7. Again we get 2. Here we'll be getting r plus 6 whole square, then 2r plus 13, and again 2, right? And next step is very much clear. I will just take out 2 common. This is r square. This is 2r plus 1. Here I'm going to get 1. And I hope students, if you have done good practice on determinants, then you must be knowing that after we create 1 in any one row or any one column, then it becomes very easy to create zeros and then finally expand the determinant. Now after this, delta r is 2 times r square, 2r plus 1 and 1. Second row contains r plus 3 whole square, 2r plus 7, then 1, r plus 6 whole square, 2r plus 13, and then 1 again, right? Now as I told you, now we have to create zeros. So now I can perform the operations. R3 tends to R3 minus R1, and R2 tends to R2 minus R1. Fine. So now the value of delta R becomes 2 times. This is R square 2R plus 1. This is 1. Here I am going to get 6R plus 9. This is going to be just 6. This is 0. In the third row, I'm going to get 12r plus 36. Here I'm going to get 12, and this is 0, right? Now the next step, we have to just expand and get the answer. This is 2 times 72r plus 108 minus 72r minus 260. I have expanded along the third problem, right? So now delta R becomes equal to 108 minus 216, it is minus 108. So finally it is 2 times minus 108, which is minus 260, right? Now students, the value of delta R has come as a fixed quantity, which is minus 216. Now what does this indicate? It indicates that delta R is independent of the value of R. So that means it is not going to depend what is the value of R. So that means all the determinants contained in the problem are equal to minus 216 separately. That is, the value of each one of them is minus 216. Now since there were total 10 determinants, so the value of the sum of determinants comes out to be how much? It comes out to be 10 into minus 216, and this is minus 2160. Now it was a nice problem involving the use of properties of determinants. Now students, this problem is based on the concept of coordinate geometry. In this problem it says the centroid G of triangle ABC divides it into three triangles, triangle AGB, triangle BGC and triangle AGC. If the coordinates of centroid of these three triangles are given to us, then we have to find the coordinates for G. Now actually this problem is based upon a concept that is very less known because it is not taught in your school curriculum. Now the concept is, if we join the centroid of a triangle ABC with its vertices and take the three centroids of these three new triangles like G1, G2, G3 and join them, then the coordinates of centroid of this new triangle G1, G2, G3 will be same as the coordinates of G. That means the centroid of this new triangle will fall on the centroid of the original triangle. Now I'm going to prove this result, and after that we'll be finding the coordinates for G in this problem. Now let us assume that the coordinates of A, B and C of triangle ABC are x1, y1, x2, y2 and x3, y3. Now you must be knowing that the coordinates of the centroid of this triangle will be x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3 and y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3, right? Now suppose we want to find the coordinates of G1, which is the centroid of triangle AGB. Now G1, by applying this formula, will be x1 plus x2 plus x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3 whole divided by 3. And then we'll be having y1 plus y2 plus y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3 whole divided by 3, right? So I can say now, if you do little bit of calculations, it will become 3x1 plus x1 4x1, 3x2 plus x2 4x2 plus x3 whole divided by 9. And on that side it will become similarly 4y1 plus 4y2 plus y3 by 9, right? Now similarly we can calculate G2 as G2 is the centroid of the triangle AGC, right? and G3 is the centroid of triangle BGC. Now, the coordinates of G2 by using the same technique, it will be 4x1 plus 4x3 plus x2 by 9, 4y1 plus 4y3 plus y2 by 9. And similarly, G3 will be 4x2 plus 4x3 plus x1 by 9 and 4y3 plus 4y2 plus y1 by 9. Right? Now we find the coordinates of centroid of triangle G1, G2, G3. Now to find the coordinates of centroid of triangle G1, G2, G3, first of all we must add the abscissa of G1, G2, G3 and divide by 3. Similarly, add all the ordinates of G1, G2, G3 and divide by 3. So from the previous calculations we can see it will become 4x1 plus 4x1 plus x1, that is 9x1 plus 9x2 plus 9x3 divided by 27, comma 9y1 plus 9y2 plus 9y3 divided by 27. So finally it becomes same as the coordinates of point G. Why? Because it is just x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3 and y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3. Now in our problem we have to get the coordinates for G, and we know the coordinates of G1, G2, G3. So that means what should we do now? We have to find the coordinates of centroid of triangle G1, G2, G3, because that will be same as the coordinates for G, right? So now you can do the calculations. It will become 7 by 9 plus 19 by 9 plus 10 by 9 divided by 3, comma 7 by 9 plus 7 by 9 minus 5 by 9 divided by 3. I hope you must have got the concept of this question, and that will come as finally 19 plus 7, it is 26 plus 10, 36 divided by 9, that is 4. So this is 4 by 3, and for the ordinate it will become 7 plus 7, 14, 14 minus 5, 9, 9 upon 9, that is 1. So this is 1 by 3. So hence the right option is C. It was a nice problem involving a important concept. Now we move to our next problem. Now students, this is a problem from the topic of sequences and series. When we look at this problem, it's neither a arithmetic progression nor a geometric progression straight away. But if we start opening these brackets and multiply the terms inside, like I'm doing the calculations, let's see what happens. In the first group, I get 1 upon 2 cube plus 1 upon 2 into 3 square plus 1 upon 3 into 2 square plus 1 upon 3 cube. Fine. I have multiplied the terms one by one. Next group open up to 1 upon 2 to the power 7 plus 1 upon 2 cube into 3 to the power 4 plus 1 upon 3 cube into 2 to the power 4 and plus 1 upon 3 to the power 7, right? And similarly we open the third group, we get 1 upon 2 to the power 11 plus 1 upon 2 to the power 5 into 3 to the power 6 plus 1 upon 3 to the power 5 into 2 to the power 6 plus 1 upon 3 to the power 11. Fine. Now if you look at the terms which are the first ones among these groups, they are clearly forming an infinite GP. Why I'm saying infinite GP? Because it is continuing till infinity, and it's a GP because when we divide any two successive terms, we get the same number as 1 upon 2 to the power 4. That means the common ratio of this infinite GP is 1 upon 2 to the power 4 and the first term is 1 upon 2 cube. Right? So now I'm regrouping these terms like this. I'm writing the first infinite GP. It is 1 upon 2 cube plus 1 upon 2 to the power 7 plus 1 upon 2 to the power 11 and so on. Similarly, if we take the last terms of these groups, what do we get? We get again an infinite GP. It is 1 upon 3 cube plus 1 upon 3 to the power 7 plus 1 upon 3 to the power 11 and so. Fine. Now plus, if we take the second terms of all of these groups, again we notice we are getting a infinite GP like 1 upon 2 into 3 square plus 1 upon 2 cube into 3 to the power 4 plus 1 upon 2 to the power 5 into 3 to the power 6 and so on. You can clearly notice that the first term of this infinite GP is 1 upon 2 into 3 square and the common ratio is 1 upon 2 square into 3 square. Now similarly take the third terms of these groups. Again you get a infinite GP starting with 1 upon 3 into 2 square plus 1 upon 3 cube into 2 to the power 4 plus 1 upon 3 to the power 5 into 2 to the power 6 and so on. Fine. Now we know that the sum of any infinite GP is given by the formula A upon 1 minus R, where A is its first term and R is its common ratio. Fine. Now you can do the basic calculations. For the first infinite GP, I am writing the sum as 1 upon 2 cube divided upon 1 minus 1 upon 2 to the power 4 plus for the second one 1 upon 3 cube divided upon 1 minus 1 upon 3 to the power 4 plus for the third one we are having the value as 1 upon 2 into 3 square divided upon 1 minus 1 upon 2 square into 3 square, and for the last one it is 1 upon 3 into 2 square divided upon 1 minus 1 upon 2 square into 3 square. Now just do the basic calculations. It will become 2 upon 15 plus this is 3 upon 80 plus this is going to be 2 upon 36 minus 1, 35. And similarly for the last one it is going to be 3 upon 35. Fine. Now collect the terms like 2 upon 15 plus 3 upon 80 plus 5 upon 35. 5 upon 35 is 1 upon 7. And finally when you take the LCM and add the terms in the numerator, you will get the value as 224 plus 1680 divided by 80. It is going to be 21 into 3, so 63 plus 240. Finally just add these values to get the answer as the C option. It is going to be 527 upon 1680. Right? Now students, this is another problem from my book. It's based on the topic of permutations and combinations. It says, if all possible 6-digit numbers that can be formed from the digits 1, 3, 5, 7, 8 and 9 without repetition of any digit are listed in ascending order of magnitude, then which is the 487th number in this list? Now, if we have to write these numbers in ascending order of magnitude, then the very first number that is going to be written is 135789, right? Now let us see how many numbers are going to start with 1. If you are aware about the basic concepts of this topic, then you must be knowing to find the total number of numbers that are going to start with 1. we have to arrange these 5 numbers among themselves. That is factorial 5 or 120 such numbers will be there that are going to start with 1. Now similarly, we have to count the number of such numbers that are going to start with 3. That is again factorial 5. The same goes with 5. Again factorial 5, and same goes with 7. Again factorial 5. Now till now we have written 480 such numbers that were either starting with 1, 3, 5 or 7, right? Now we have to be little bit cautious because now we are very close to the 487th number. Now first of all write 481st number. Now 481st number will be starting with 8, and after that we have to arrange all the remaining numbers in ascending order. That is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Fine. Now here let me make you clear about the idea of such problems. That is, to get the upcoming numbers, we will be permuting first of all the last 2 digits. That is, instead of 7, 9, now in the next number it will be 9, 7. Fine. Now when the permutation of last 2 digits gets completed, this 5 will get replaced by just the next number in this group. That is, when 7 and 9's permutation gets completed, 5 will be replaced by 7. Okay. Now similarly, if the permutation of last 3 digits gets completed, this 3 will be replaced by just the next number in this group. That is, 3 will be replaced by 5. Clear? Now to solve the question in less time, I am fixing 813 in the first 3 positions. If I fix 813 in the first 3 positions, now I have to just arrange 5, 7 and 9 in the last 3 digits. So how can they be arranged in the last 3 digits? It's clearly factorial 3. That means there will be 6 such numbers that are going to have their first 3 digits as 8, 1 and 3. Fine. Now since the permutation of 5, 7 and 9 is complete, so that means now in the 487th number, this 3 will be replaced by the next number, just the next number in the group 5, 7 and 9, and that is 5. So that means in the 487th number, we are going to have the first 3 digits as 8, 1 and 5. Now we have to arrange the remaining 3 numbers, that is 3, 7 and 9 in ascending order. So this becomes our 487th number. I hope this would be clear to you. Now we move to our last problem of this video. Now students, this problem I have created on the topic of binomial theorem. To solve this question, you must be familiar with the basic concepts of binomial coefficients. In this question, we have to find the sum of this series. Now first of all, write the general term for this series. It's clear it is going to be 20 CR into 20 CR minus 1 divided upon 21 CR whole square, where the value of R will vary from 1 to 20. That is, if I put R as 1, I am going to get the first term. If I put R as 2, I will be getting the second term, and so on till 20. If I put R as 20, I am going to get the last term. Now let us simplify this TR. It can be written as 20 CR divided upon 21 CR into 20 CR minus 1 divided upon 21 CR. Fine. First of all, let me simplify the first part, that is 20 CR upon 21 CR. If you know the basic formula, you can write it as factorial 20 upon factorial R into factorial 20 minus R into factorial R into factorial 21 minus R whole divided upon factorial 21. Now this factorial R will cancel out. Factorial 20 minus R will cancel out with the numerator to give 21 minus R. Factorial 20 will cancel with the denominator to give 21. So that means this first part is just 21 minus r upon 21. Right? Now we move to the next part. Now the second part becomes 20 cr minus 1 divided upon 21 cr, which can further be written as factorial 20 upon factorial r minus 1 into factorial of 20 minus inside the bracket r minus 1. So it will become factorial of 21 minus r into factorial r into factorial 21 minus r divided upon factorial 21. Now this factorial 21 minus r will cancel out. Factorial 20 will cancel with factorial 21 to give just 21. Factorial r minus 1 will cancel with factorial r to give just r. So this finally simplifies to r upon 21. So now I can write tr as 21 minus r upon 21 into r upon 21. Right? This can be written as 21r minus r square upon 441. Now let's consider our series as S. So S can be written as summation r varying from 1 to 20, 21r minus r square upon 441. Now let's calculate the value of this. I'm taking 1 upon 441 out and separating these two summations. So this is summation r varying from 1 to 20, 21r minus summation r square r varying from 1 to 20. Now students, if you are aware about the basic concepts, then you can clearly see if I take 21 out from the first summation, it is just the sum of first 20 natural numbers now, because it's just summation r varying from 1 to 20. So that will become 20 into 21 by 2 minus the second summation represents the sum of squares of first 20 natural numbers. So if we apply the formula, it is going to be 20 into 21 into 41 by 6. Now let's do the calculations. So finally it becomes 4410 minus 2870 divided upon 441. So this can be written as 1540 divided upon 441. Or if we cancel numerator and denominator by 7, we'll be getting 220 upon 63. So C option is the right one. Now students, these were the problems that I took from my book in this particular video. In my next video, I will be presenting before you another 10 problems. Now this is my suggestion to you people. If you are preparing for these exams like JEE Main, JEE Advanced or KVPY, then you must buy this book and practice from it. It is available through Amazon's website, or you can also order it through my website www.exemplaryclasses.in. Thanks.